My hands all weaving till time without end. My sight as deep as the sea. Beating my heart sounds the measures of all of love's eternity. That of love, that of love, that of love's eternity. I feel the tides as they answer the moon, rushing on a far distant sand. Bringing my song is the wind of my breast, and my love was over the land. And my love, and my love, and my love goes over the land. My foot carries days of the old into new, our dreaming shows us the way. Once our faith settles deep in the earth, rising green to bring a new day. Rising green, rising green, rising green to bring a new day.
Tony, we're on live now.
I'm so psyched.
Tony, we're on live now.
Oh, we're live. Hi, everybody. There you go. All right. Well, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. We are here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Meriden. I'm the minister here, Reverend Tony Lorenzen. We're very glad you are joining us this morning online. We're very glad to all of you who have joined us here in person this morning. We're very excited. We're going to celebrate our annual water ceremony this morning. If you are new to us, please make sure you say hello before you leave so I know who you are and we can get some contact information. If you're new to us online, please drop us a note and say hello. I will get back to you and we can find out if you'd like to get our newsletter and all kinds of fun things like that. For the most important news of what's happening here, please see our email newsletter. We're going to begin as we usually do by lighting our chalice, the symbol of our faith tradition. We gather this morning in anticipation of new life, new adventure, new vitality. We believe we make this time and place holy by the simple act of our coming together with each other. We begin by lighting the chalice, the symbol of our faith, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. This morning we have run out of the paraffin oil, so we are using the light that cannot go out here today, our battery-operated candle flame. May this flame inspire us to explore new possibilities and give us the courage to follow wherever new paths might lead us. I invite you, if you would like to rise in body and or spirit to sing Blue Boat Home, which is number 1064. If you need a hymnal, wave your hand, I'll come give you one. Each fall, Unitarian Universalist congregations around the country celebrate in one way or another the water communion or water ceremony ritual. Everyone is invited to bring water from a place that is special to them and pour it into the common bowl, our bowl with the sunflowers on it here, and share with everyone briefly, what this water means to them and why it's special. And this represents our Unitarian Universalist reality that even though we all may have different spiritual beliefs and practices, we create a common community that promises to work together to build a strong community around us, help each other grow spiritually and intellectually, and serve the greater good. So today we invite you to do this, to come offer some water to the common bowl. And this microphone is on, and if you want to share a little bit briefly about why the water is special to you, you can do so. I will help if you have trouble with the microphone, or I will come over to you and get your words and relay them via the microphone if I need to do that as well, or pour the water for you. After you've shared and or poured the water, you'll notice there are a lot of jars here on the table. These jars are filled with water from the last time we had water communion together in person. So there was only about a cup of it in the minister's office and a Talenti ice cream canister. So I mixed it in with some distilled water, and so it went far enough to fill everything. So we ask that you take one of those, and you can keep it with you at your house, at work, wherever you want it to be, and it can remind you that you are part of this community. And that even if you may not be able to see us or talk with us, we are there with you. And Nancy. Nancy is going to talk to you about one more thing we're going to do. You may have noticed this big piece of paper up here, and Nancy's going to tell you what that's about.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nancy Burton, one of your co-presidents. Written on this piece of paper that Tony has is our covenant.
Right in there. There you go.
Better?
Yep.
Okay. So written on this piece of paper is a slightly abbreviated version of our covenant, and along with the mission of our congregation. And I'm going to read to you what it says. We, the members of the Unitarian Universalist Church in Meriden, covenant to cherish the well-being, health, and vitality of the congregation, participate in the worship life, service, learning programs, and social life of our church, joyfully welcome, support, and include newcomers, embrace our diversity as a source of strength, accept responsibility for our own words and actions, honor our commitments, listen with open hearts and minds, speak honestly with kindness and compassion, uphold the principles and purposes of Unitarian Universalism, respect our Unitarian Universalist sources of spiritual wisdom, and uphold our congregation's mission to practice loving community, advance justice, and nurture spiritual growth. After pouring and sharing and taking the vial of water, we invite each of you to renew your commitment to this covenant and mission by signing your name to the bottom underneath the words, "We, the undersigned members of the UU Church in Meriden, renew our commitment to this covenant and mission on this 12th day of September 2021. This is a public pledge that you are still with us and will continue to help us renew and revitalize." Thank you.
So at this time, I invite you to come forward as you feel so moved to share water. If you don't have any and you'd like to offer some symbolic water, there's a little left over in the pitcher, what we made to fill all the jars. So you can pour a little drop of that and share. Take the little jar of water from last water communion and then sign back onto the covenant, okay? If you need help or assistance coming to or me getting things to you, let me know.
My water represents 3 places. The first is Marlow, New Hampshire, which is special, and I love that. Rhode Island, Charlestown, which is special to me. And it actually came from up at the garden this morning when Chet went up to pick the last of the lettuce and a few tomatoes that you'll have for potluck later. So this water is from the garden, the rain that was left like in the buckets or whatever. And the garden this summer has been really special to us as far as the food nourishing us and just having a place to go and get some exercise and sweat a little and just be part of the land. So that's where the water's from. It represents all 3 places.
You can come right up one after the other.
I'm Ann Doherty. Harry and I both lost a sibling this year, so I'm going to symbolically put some tears. Didn't know how to buy it. Point of view, the element and down to the nitty-gritty, the fact that I have one remaining healthy
This water is symbolically from China Lake in Maine, where my partner Steve and I had a very nice, relaxing vacation. That included kayaking and biking and getting lost on our bike after 20 miles and being rescued by a perfect stranger who went way out of his way to help us get to where we needed to be. So that wonderful stranger turned what could have been a disastrous afternoon into an absolutely wonderful one. Turns out he also grew up fairly close to me in Queens, New York, which was kind of fun.
Lindbergh, and my water is symbolic from my garden hose because my best companion, my dog Pepper, loves cleaning the hose. So we've done that every sunny day in the summer, and seeing his joy brings me joy, and it gets me out of the house.
Water's from Lake Champlain. We went to upstate New York. I have a victory that I'm very proud, an achievement that I've been working on for 39 years on my mother's father's side of genealogy. And we personally handed my information to 2 libraries near Lake Champlain, and one was almost at the Canadian border. So it gave me great satisfaction to be able to not mail these, but to hand them to them personally. And we visited relatives up there at the same time.
I'm Richard Gall. We didn't go very far. This is pure, beautiful, kind of well water. Better than most waters, and also to celebrate my birthday, which is today.
Woo! Yay! Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Richard. Happy birthday.
Ago, I asked if someone could take this stole, which was the Unitarian Universalist standing on the side of love, and transform it into our new way of saying this, answering the call of love. Get this on the internet. There we go. Be the envy of every UU minister now. It would be great. The only time in my life I've done that. But this is just amazing. So, Anne, thank you so much. This is so cool.
Water symbolically from Acadia, where we got to go on vacation for the first time in 2 years, and the beautiful waters of Mount Desert Island and Soap Sound. It also represents the power and destructive nature of water, particularly when we don't take care of our earth, and the beautiful and wonderful restorative and healing power of water, and how it helps us grow, as evidenced by my tomatoes and others who are bringing vegetables to potluck in their gardens. Hi, I'm Trish Schneider, and I didn't bring water, so I'm just going to symbolically use the pitcher of water. My water represents the Housatonic River in western Connecticut, which I rediscovered that area. It's a beautiful part of the state that I normally wouldn't go, but we had a wonderful camping trip out there, and it had rained, not a lot, but beautiful to watch coming down the hills and, you know, the rapids and the river. So it was, and being with friends, you know, just reconnecting after a year.
Just a reminder for those who may have come in late, what's on the big pad of paper is basically the church's covenant and mission. And what we're doing today with our water ceremony is also re-covenanting, re-signing onto that covenant and mission. So if you're a member, you've already signed on to it. There's nothing new.
I am Jane, and this symbolic water comes from Block Island, where my family and I spend a week every summer. As some of my good friends know, I hate the beach. I really don't like the beach. But my daughter and her family and our good friends all love it. So I just say, coming together is the most important thing of all.
Okay, I remember the water. This is Farmington Canal water, Farmington Canal Trail. I just about every week for the past year or so, I have been walking with 3 friends, walking on the trail. Some of it, you know, goes along the linear trail railroad. So some of it is old railroad track and some of it is canal. A lot of it is canal. So I've done maybe 3/4 of it from New Haven towards Farmington. And Janet has been on a couple of these walks, special walks, because there's butterfly gardens along the way, etc.
Hello, I'm Elaine Donovan, and I'm going to pour some symbolic water from Philadelphia and Vancouver, where I was able to get to see my siblings that I hadn't seen in a long time and my grandchildren.
Anyone else like to come share water, take some of the water, or come up and sign the covenant? Would anyone like me to bring some of that over to you so it's easier to do? All right then. We're going to bless the water we've gathered. May this water be a sign and symbol of the presence and power of the Spirit of life. For without water, there is no life. Wherever this water is present and however it is used, may this water be a reminder of the life-affirming power of our covenantal faith community, the sacredness and worth of each human life, and the power of love. So may it be. Everybody's to my left and my right. And everyone out on the internet is straight ahead. I'm not ignoring you. I'm not ignoring you. I'm looking right at you, however. For about 8 years, I lived in Texas. And it didn't take me long to notice that even the very tiniest of towns in Texas has 3 things: a gas station, a high school football stadium, and a Dairy Queen. This was not always the case. Dairy Queen didn't really get going till just after World War II, in the 1940s. And it started somewhere in Illinois, near Chicago, I think. And as the 40s rolled into the 50s and air conditioning became more affordable and units started put into houses, more people started moving to the Sun Belt in the South to live permanently. And the folks at Dairy Queen said, we should send some reps down there and see about opening some Dairy Queens down in Texas. You know, and about the same time, a company that had started an ice cream place called Cone King. You ever hear of Cone King? There's a reason for this coming up. Cone King decided to do the same thing. We'll send somebody down to Texas and see about moving some store down there and seeing what we can do, sell some ice cream. And it just so happened that on the same day, in the same area of town in Lubbock, a sales rep from Dairy Queen and a sales rep from Cone King ended up at the same diner to have lunch. They ended up sitting relatively near each other, but not right next to each other, but close enough that they had the same server. And the waitress asked the Dairy Queen salesman, so what you doing in town? And he said, well, I work for this ice cream shop company called Dairy Queen, and we're scouting around to see if we can open some stores down here. Do you folks eat a lot of ice cream around these parts? And she says, not really. Folks around here are into like popsicles and icy things, not so much ice cream. And they chatted, and the waitress ended up chatting with the Cone King representatives who said the same thing. You know, I heard, there's a guy over there talking about ice cream. Oh yeah, he says he might want us to do some ice cream shop or something. He asked if we eat a lot of ice cream. And I told him, not really. Folks like popsicles and icy things and stuff like that. So they finished their lunch, and after lunch, both these sales reps check into their hotel, and they both call back to the home office. And the Cone King guy says to the home office, they don't even eat ice cream around here. This is going to be a waste of our time. And the Dairy Queen guy says to the home office, this is great. There's no ice cream places down here. We're going to make a killing. It's not a true story, but you get the point. Well, the part that is true is every small town in Texas has a football stadium, a gas station, and a Dairy Queen. At least all the ones I saw. So, after that story, my big question for everybody is, which sales rep are you? Do you see the status quo as a limit? Or do you tend to see potential and possibility in a situation? Do you see things that are and, ask why? Or see things that are not yet and ask why not? After 18 plus months of pandemic and quarantine ways of doing church life, do you feel discouraged about what's next for you, for the country, for our congregation? Or do you see new possibilities and opportunities for yourself and our church? In 1937, Albert Szent-Györgyi won the Nobel Prize for Medicine. And he won this for identifying ascorbic acid, vitamin C. And he said, discovery, and I would also add in possibility, our theme for the month, is seeing what everyone else has seen, but thinking what no one else has thought. Why so many of us see the same things? But why also do answers and solutions and cures and compromises elude us? Well, there's some reasons. There are definite reasons why sometimes we don't see what's possible. One is fear. When we're scared, we fight or flee. Fear prevents us from seeing and thinking creatively. And I say once again, we do not fear change. We fear loss. What will we lose if things change? Also, familiarity prevents us from seeing possibilities. We crave comfort. Comfort food, comfort music, comforting people, comfort movies. And so we tend not to try new food, listen to new music, make new friends. Waiting on our favorites prevents us from imagining and seeking out new experiences and new people. Prejudice prevents us from seeing possibilities. And prejudice is when we prejudge. If we are convinced we don't like something or don't want it or that it's bad or scary or new, we prejudge and we avoid everything from people who look, speak, and pray differently to green eggs and ham. Loss, pain, grief, and mourning prevent us from imagining possibilities. Why try something or explore something new? It can't replace what I lost. It's not that we fear the new. It's not that we fear the change. It's that we fear what we'll lose. Reality is we have already lost much during this time of pandemic and quarantine. Our congregation has lost members, energy, vitality, engagement, income, programs. Before the pandemic, it had lost lots of children and families in a downtown church building and a full-time then a three-quarter-time minister. New possibilities. Lots of loss. Do we see where I'm going with this? So now we stand at a very important crossroads in the history of this congregation. And we have to have the courage to imagine and explore new possibilities. To have the courage to rise like the phoenix out of the ashes and be born again. Now, born again is a very big religious term in some circles. And in those circles, it tends to be used in the way of primarily focused on an individual and an individual's, salvation. But in Unitarian Universalism, we don't focus on salvation. We believe everybody's pretty good to start with. But we focus on the right of everyone having the right to pursue their own spiritual quest. And our approach is that we think in terms of the whole lifelong experience of learning and forming in faith and developing our spirituality, and that we are always learning more, growing, changing our minds, revising our thinking, changing our minds again, exploring spiritual practices, dumping one and taking on another. And we are not about being born again once and everything's finished. We're about a constant process of growth and rebirth, like being born again and again and again and again. Because no one is ever finished on this journey of growth and learning. No one ever gets to the point, ever, where there's nothing left to do or become or learn. And just as individuals grow and change and develop and are reborn again and again, so are groups and teams and organizations and congregations. This year, we need to work together to be born again. This congregation has been around for almost 200 years. It has, in a sense, died and been reborn over and over and over again. It has risen from the ashes over and over again. It has been through reincarnations over and over again. Some of you are old enough and have been here long enough that you've seen some of these more than once. This church has been part of two denominations. It has been lay-led and lay-centered, and it has been minister-focused and pastor-driven, and it has been through times of what's called shared ministry, where staff and clergy and lay people all work together as teams. It has lived in the center of the city in a traditional church building. It has lived in a residential neighborhood, in a house. It has had services inside a very traditional sanctuary. It has had services in a large sanctuary-type room in a residential house. It has had services entirely online. It has had services on the front dang lawn. And now, we're at a turning point again. And the way we do things as a congregation will be different going forward. But essentials will not change. Whatever comes next, I can tell you that this is going to happen. This congregation will revolve around deepening connections with one another and the world around us. It will find itself in its existence deeply grounded in friendships and fellowships and learning. There will be relationships with others involved and with those in our community. There will still be the grounding of Unitarian Universalism. There will still be a religious openness and accepting atmosphere of all people. There will still be a mission to be a beacon of being religious and a religious community in a different, more open and affirming way. That won't change. So to be open to the possibilities of tomorrow and to rebirth ourselves and reincarnate ourselves once again, we have to find ways to do something really difficult. Together, we have to overcome the trauma of pandemic and quarantine time. And this time's been traumatic. I don't think we say that out loud often enough. This has been a traumatic time. And not just in a pain in the butt way traumatic. This has been rough on lots of us. And it's been rough on the community as a whole. It's been rough in terms of mental health and anger and frustration and isolation. You know, we have to remember this as we enter into our work this year. And that's still going to linger. And this trauma is going to, in a sense, be there in the background as we talk and explore possibilities and experience things and try things out. That trauma will sometimes cause us to see things, interpret things, or feel about things differently than we might if we hadn't been through that trauma. And we need to be aware of that as we explore new possibilities. Sometimes that trauma is going to make us want to say, oh, no. Fear of new things, like same, like comfort. We get that. We might have to try new anyway. We need to be aware that, are we really that standoffish? Or is the trauma of what we've been through making us want to cling to what's familiar even more? Hear what I'm saying? Sometimes that wanting to cling to something we don't want to give up might be very real, and we need to pay attention to it. It's going to be harder for us to tell, so we've got to work together, right? You know, we need more minds and hearts to do this well because of these unintended ways our experience of having lived through the last 18 months may color our emotions and our thinking in ways of which we ourselves are not even aware. One of the things most of us are likely to do because of this trauma we've all been through is to imagine a future for the congregation, which isn't really a future but a return to the past. But remember, we don't fear change and we don't fear new things, we fear loss. And we need to talk about what it is we don't want to lose, so we don't lose it, and then allow us to try the new things, right? And I think we can do that. We have to free our imaginations from trauma and from the past. And we must also frame exploring possibilities as part of the cycle of rebirth and renewal. What we must avoid is the frame of seeing our situation as a failure. This congregation has not failed at anything. There are not many children around here right now. That's not a failure, that's demographics. I'm going to explain that more in detail in an October sermon. That's not a failure. Some people have drifted away. That's not a failure. People's lives move on. Sometimes they want to be involved in this, sometimes in that. It's not a failure. You've gone through different phases in this congregation, different reincarnations of being very pastor-centered and being very lay-centered and in between. The fact that, you've recently gone from a full-time minister to a three-quarter-time minister to kind of half-time minister, and maybe not a minister, none of it's a failure. It's doing things differently, reincarnating a different way yet again. You know how to do this. It's in the bones and marrow and DNA of the congregation. You know how to be born again. You know how to reinvent. You know how to reimagine. You know how to reincarnate yourselves. You've done it over and over here for 200 years. So we must not frame ourselves now in fear, and we must not frame ourselves in failure. All we're doing is looking together after a traumatic time for what we do next and how we do it. We can do this. And we can do it more effectively by imagining the greater number of possibilities. As I like to say, nothing is off the table to start with. The craziest ideas and possibilities get to be explored. They may eventually be thrown out as, that's nuts, we're not doing that. But at first, we shouldn't react that way right off the top to anything. It may end up being the idea. And we need more and more of us to be involved in this, because the more people who think, the more people who feel, the more people who communicate, the more likely we are to catch a good idea we may have missed if everyone wasn't involved. Because that's how we do things here, in community. Churches of all kinds have been declining for 2 generations now. Right? It's happening everywhere. It is not this. It is not Unitarian Universalism. It is not you. It is not me. Right? Things are changing. It does not mean we have failed. We succeed when we explore possibilities and find out where we go next. For, hundreds of years, and maybe even as recently as 25 or 50 years ago, anything called a church would have had a minister and staff and members and programs and educators, an administrator, a janitor. They would have met on Sunday mornings and ran religious education programs, mostly just for young people. Their gathering on Sunday morning would have had a very long-winded and boring sermon of something, unlike this one, with organ music and people sitting in real hard wooden pews all facing front in rows, followed by a coffee hour where somebody served bad coffee, one of those big percolator type things, and you had stale donuts and bagels, and everyone hung around for 2 hours afterwards, right? All church was kind of one variation of this or another, right? And there might have been a little experimenting of a little different kind of music or a little different something or other. But in many respects, what we think of as church, even us in Unitarian Universalism, hasn't changed much in hundreds of years. And all of that is about to change. We are living through a time where religious organizations as a whole are going through a tremendous time of rearranging and rebirthing and reinventing. In many respects, we are used to the same old thing. Even us crazy liberals with our new ideas in Unitarian Universalism. But to get you thinking, I just want to share with you 4 different ways of doing church I've encountered in the last 10 years. One is something called Kyrie. It's an interfaith spiritual gathering in Fort Worth, Texas. I used to attend this and help with it when I had a church in that area in its very early days. It meets in a pub on Sunday night. The pub owner lets them use this just for the event. Their service, if you will, is an opening prayer or opening words, a set of music by a local musician or performance artist, a very brief, like 5-minute homily or message, another set of music by the artist who's performing, and a closing prayer. That's it. And all the while, people are drinking and eating. Like drinking and eating. Not just drinking and eating, drinking, and you know what I mean. Simple Church was a Methodist dinner church in Grafton, Massachusetts, near where I was last. It met in the basement of a Congregational church on Thursday nights at 6 p.m. Its service was a vegetarian meal, usually soup, bread, fruit, and cheese, during which someone read the week's Bible passage from the Christian lectionary, and everyone talked about it together over dinner. After dinner, they played games together or sang songs and organized some service projects, and everybody went home. That was church. Sacred Fire is a UU non-congregational community in North Carolina. They meet every weekend, sometimes on Sunday, sometimes on Saturday, sometimes on Friday. One weekend a month is a service, not unlike what we're doing this morning. One weekend a month is a potluck and community discussion where they do all their business and organizing their work together. One weekend a month, they go and work with a community partner, serving the community or protesting or doing some activism. And one weekend a month is just something fun. Bowling trip, apple picking, cookout. That's church. Sanctuary Boston is a Unitarian Universalist service held every other Wednesday night at different churches in Boston. It's very heavy on music and communal singing. There's joys and concerns and lighting candles. And the message is usually 3, 4, or 5 very short reflections, not one person going on and on for 20 minutes. After church today, as part of our conversation during our potluck lunch, we're going to ask you what your hopes and what your fears are for our congregation. And we're just going to listen to those with each other. And we'll talk more about them next time when we gather. We're just going to listen today. We're also going to hear from people who are organizing work, such as worship services and fundraising and work on the building and other things, how they need your help to get things done or they're not going to happen. Okay? There are many, many possible paths the congregation can take from here. We just have to have the courage to explore them together. And only by exploring possibilities will we find the road that leads to our renewal and rebirth yet again. Spirit of Life, we affirm these words by Mel Hoover and Rose Eddington. Water unites us. All water is one water, shape-shifting as it goes on in its unending cycle. The stream we gather by unites us with the waters of the world, for all life depends on water. That's why this common everyday element on which our very lives depend is sacred. In our thankfulness for water, let us remember to honor, cherish, and care for it, for our own lives, for all life, and for those who come after us. I want to invite you, as is our custom, to come in. We don't have candles outside, but we have the microphone if you'd like to come and share a joy or concern. I'm going to turn that microphone on. But in a sense, our first candle today is a recognition of the 20th anniversary of 9/11 yesterday. This is from John Saxon, a Unitarian Universalist. This day is simply one more day on the calendar. The 11th day of September, another beautiful sunny day on the cusp between summer and fall. And yet this day, September 11th, will never be just another day on the calendar, as we remember that beautiful sunny day 20 years ago, a day that began like so many others with people going about ordinary day-to-day lives, and then in the brief span of a few hours ending in shock and disbelief as airplanes became weapons of mass destruction, skyscrapers burned and fell, and smoke and ash filled the air. A day that is painful to remember and impossible to forget. And so, together, in reverence, we pause to remember. We remember with gratitude all the heroes of that day, firefighters and emergency responders who demonstrated courage in crisis. We remember in sorrow the innocents who perished, the stockbrokers and janitors, office workers and passengers and bystanders, men, women, and children, firefighters and police officers, victims of such calculated and senseless violence. We remember with hope the voices that called and still call for unity in the face of division and hatred, and urged peace even as our nation plunged into war. We remember in bewilderment the ways that the events of that day changed who we are as a nation and still continue to haunt us. And remembering the terror and violence of that day, we rededicate ourselves to raising our voices against fanaticism, religious intolerance, racism, violence, terror, and hatred in all its forms, doing whatever we can to create a future in which all people can live in freedom, in community, and peace without fear. I invite you, as you are so moved, to come and share with us your joys and concerns.
I'm just going to ask people to keep my partner Steve in their thoughts. He's having medical problems and we don't quite know what it is yet. He's having multiple appointments to work it up, and hopefully they'll figure out what's going on with him.
Our friend Connie Welton, who has suffered a great many severe health problems, including most recently a stroke, is going to be released from the Apple Center today and will be moving with her daughter Jessica into a home that Jessica purchased for them in East Hartford. So if anyone would like, I can give you their new address so that you can get in touch and possibly visit. And on a sadder note, September 11th, since the year 1998, has always had a different and painful meaning in my family. My first husband, my daughter's father, died very suddenly at the age of 49, and she was only 19 years old at the time, and she was his only surviving adult relative. So my kid, who was a sophomore in college, went through a rough time and has grown in compassion and strength as a result. So it's symbolic of how we can recover and grow from loss, but also a reminder of becoming more compassionate to those who are enduring loss and pain. Happy note. We attended a normally large family gathering yesterday on Chet's family side, and it was supposed to be a 50th birthday party, and when we arrived it was a 50th birthday party, but it was also a surprise wedding. The couple had lived together for 20 years and decided to surprise everybody and got married, and it was just a fun, creative wedding. So that was a good day on 9/11.
Good morning, I'm Lou Rinaldi, and I have a concern and a hope. After COVID-19 and we were quarantined for weeks and weeks, it affected me with a psychotic breakdown, and I ended up in the hospital and was treated at Rushford, and I'm doing well with medication and support from my family and loved ones.
Thanks a lot for sharing that with us, Lou. That was really courageous. We're glad to see you today. Spirit of life, we hold all these thoughts, prayers, joys, and sorrows, hopes and dreams in our hearts, especially those that have been left unspoken.
Can I ask for some volunteers to pass these plates around? Because as much as we would love to run on everyone's well wishes, we do need our contributions to continue
in, and we're grateful for anything you can offer this morning. While those are going around, I want to tell you about a fundraiser we're doing that started yesterday. We are raising money for a sound system, a portable sound system. This sound system you're hearing right now does not belong to the church. It's mine. And it is also used by my wife and my son, and it's not always going to be available. So we are raising money to buy our own church's portable sound system. Even when we return to having services inside, we will still have services outside on occasion, and we still have events outside, and we will have concerts outside. We had a concert last spring, and if we want those to continue, we need our own little sound system. We can't just have people who can provide their own sound system to come play. So this fundraiser is happening on something called faithify.com. Faithify. Faithify is a Unitarian Universalist crowdfunding website. You know what crowdfunding is? GoFundMe, Kickstarter, those are crowdfunding things where people donate money to help other people afford something, buy something, get a project off the ground. So Faithify is only for Unitarian Universalists. And we have a campaign up there as of yesterday we're trying to raise $700 to buy a portable sound system. Our board approved $600 for one last year, and with the $700 more, we can get a really nice one. So you will be getting an email tomorrow from your board explaining how Faithify works, the exact product we're trying to buy, has a great video starring me in it, you'll want to watch that, and how you can be of help. And the biggest help you can be, believe it or not, is not donating. We want you to donate, and you can make a contribution, sure, but the biggest help you can be is by telling others about it. If you use email, if you use Facebook, if you use Twitter, we need you to tell other people about Faithify just by putting the link in there. And in the letter you're going to get from the board tomorrow in your email, there's examples of how to do this, what to say, what link to put on, right? And there's also examples about how many donors, we need. We need lots of donors to do this. The goal of Faithify is to help UU congregations raise money, afford things, fund projects without having it all come from their congregation. By raising money outside the congregation. The only way this happens, we've got a great ad campaign, but the only way people know about it is if you tell them and show them the campaign. So when you get that email tomorrow, please read through it carefully, please look for it, and please share. Share with 5 people, share with 10 people, do it personally, send a personal email to 5 people you think might donate, post it on your social media, send a social media, Facebook message or direct message on Twitter to 2 or 3 people you think might donate. The worst they can say is no. And if they say no, you know how much worse off we are than right now? None at all. But if they say yes, we're incredibly so much better. So this is how we're going to have to go forward, right? There's not going to be enough people anymore to run the congregation on just pledge donations alone. So we've got to be creative with fundraising. And this is how you can help with a creative fundraiser. Sure, we'd love you to make a donation. I'm not going to say I don't want you to make a donation. But even more important than your donation, quite seriously, is how much you promote this to other people. Our partner congregation out in Woodbury started one of these for $1,500 to buy a new keyboard, kind of like the one Alan's playing now. They were trying to raise $1,500, they made $1,900. 66%, 2/3 of the donors were from outside the congregation. It was up for 45 days, but realistically, nobody did anything about it while I was on vacation, so we raised that $1,900 in 2 weeks, right? And the reason we did that is people in their congregation shared it with other people. Boom, 2 weeks, $1,900. We only need $700. Right? So this is how we're going to go on together. And we've got a fun fundraiser with an event here that Nancy's going to tell you about.
Yeah, this one I think should be a blast. This coming Saturday, the 18th, the Social Justice Council is having a dance. Elaine Donovan's wonderful husband, Chris, and his band have donated their time to come play for us. And this is to help the Social Justice Council be able to continue our work. We have done a lot to help our immigrant neighbors who are often undocumented and not able to get any of the help that the government is offering. And now we are also looking into maybe joining with other congregations or other agencies and groups to help Afghan refugees, to see what we can do to help. But we can't do any of it without funds, so this is going to be a free will donation. There's no set amount or anything like that, but it's also going to be fun. Come and dance. Because we're going to have people, I think, from outside, we're not going to have potluck or share food because of COVID. We've invited people, they can bring their own picnic on our grounds. So it's 4:30 on Saturday. I hope to see all of you there. If you don't dance, you can still sit and listen to the music.
We are grateful for everything you're able to give. We're grateful for your help with these fundraisers. This morning, I'm grateful for great weather. I'm grateful for Ann Doherty and my new stole. I'm grateful that we have some visitors here I do not recognize yet, want to meet. I'm grateful to see Lou Rinaldi again. I'm grateful for a lot of things this morning. Shout out right now. What else are you grateful for this morning?
You.
Sunshine. Me, thank you.
My oldest grandson.
Grandson?
Here I'm going to his birthday party.
He's
He's 10.
10. What's the difference between him and Richard Gall? What else are we grateful for? Anything?
Being together.
Being together and food. We have food, right? Excellent. I love the food part after church. One of my favorite things. We need a class in this in seminary, like how to bring nutritious things to eat, how not to eat all the junk you're going to be around. I failed that one. I needed that class when I was in seminary. All right. For all these blessings and all the blessings and good things that are happening that we've left unspoken, we give thanks in the name of everything glorious and good and kind and compassionate and full of love. Let's sing together Rising Green. It's number 1068.
So we're going to have a potluck and discussion following the service. Don't forget to wear masks when you go inside. Get some food, we're going to bring it out, and once we get everybody out here eating, we'll start up. We extinguish this flame, but we carry it with in our hearts wherever we go. May it shine and lead us into new possibilities with its light. When you go today, go in peace and stick around for lunch. Get some tables to bring out to the lawn. I still have a lot of connections. Some help to set up tables so we can sit down.
That we're in at the tables out back after we've gotten our food.